Welcome to Good Deeds, your Norfolk County Registry of Deeds. I'm Mark Crosby. Thank you so much for joining me and my guest. My guest is William O'Donnell. He is the Register of Deeds for Norfolk County. Bill, welcome back.
Mark, welcome back. I hope everyone out there, the summer's progressing, and I hope people are doing well. And again, thanks to you and thanks to Quincy Access Television. We got James, Brian, Jonathan. Thank you for putting this on. And believe it or not, July is here, but we're going to look at statistics for the first 6 months, January through June 30th, as well as the second quarter, which is April, May, and June. If I was going to describe the state of where we are statistically, it was a really notably positive trends in Norfolk County, and certainly there were growth statistics. And a lot of the growth statistics were driven by what happened in that second quarter, April, May, and June, because traditionally January, February, March are slower months. We look at the Norfolk Registry. There's 28 communities. We look at the total document volume, and it was very busy. Again, for that 6-month period in 2024, it was 48,603 documents. In 2025, it was 51,484 documents. So that's up 6%. And you could see it was driven in the second quarter. The second quarter is up 8%. In 2025, in the second quarter, there were 28,732 documents. So a lot of what I'm going to talk to statistically is really driven by the second quarter. And what happened in the second quarter to make these 6 months look pretty vibrant? Well, first of all, what goes into documents is sales. And there were plenty of sales in Norfolk County. The statistics that I just mentioned were really actively driven by deeds that get recorded when sales take place. And in countywide, it was 7,490 deeds from January to June 30th in 2024, but it was up to 7,855 in that same 6-month period, or a 5% growth. And in the second quarter, it went from 4,2028 to 4,493. Again, a 6%. So you can see the second quarter percentage-wise is actually exceeding the overall percentages. What else goes into the document volume? The other big component is mortgages. You know, if people are buying houses or buying condominiums or buying commercial real estate, they have to borrow money, most people. And you record a mortgage, which gets recorded at the registry when the bank or lender gives you money. And when you look at the mortgages, even though the rates maybe aren't as competitive as they were some years ago, they don't seemingly are not preventing people from jumping in and getting these mortgages. In the 2024 period, the 6-month period, it was 6,985, and it went up in 2025 to 7,971. Or a 14% increase. And over that second quarter, it was up 17%, again, exceeding the 6-month period. So clearly, there's been a lot of activity. I think the demand for wanting to live in Norfolk County, there are 28 towns and communities. They're desirable communities, and the demand to live in Norfolk County drives these statistics.
And the building is still going on across all communities, because I think that's an issue, right? The lack of supply.
The lack of supply. I know legislatively there were laws put into place to try to increase the supply, but some of the experts say that the demand is still outstripping the supply. I also want to talk about foreclosures because, again, overall the activity was very good county-wide, but in the 6-month period, the deeds and foreclosure numbers were down. The foreclosure deeds were down 38%, and the notices to foreclose, which is the first part of the foreclosure process, the lender that is foreclosing on someone because they're not paying their mortgage or they're behind in their mortgage, they by law have to file a notice that they're going to file a lawsuit against the lender, and they file it at the Norfolk Registry of Deeds. And the notices of foreclosure for the 6-month period in 2024 was 202, but for January 1st to June 30th, it was 143 in 2025. So again, down 29%. And that's also borne out in the second quarter. The foreclosure deeds were down 39%, and the notices to foreclose down 34%, again for the second quarter. But if you do find yourself struggling with paying your mortgage, you may want to get help before there's a notice to foreclose. Or if there is a notice to foreclose, it's a legal document. It's a legal process. You may want to seek and get some counseling, either counseling to address the situation that has put you in, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is your credit card debt, things you can control. Other times people are foreclosed because of a bad luck, health problems, or something like that. But we've partnered up for years at Norfolk County with Quincy Community Action Programs, NeighborWorks Housing Solutions, and also the Attorney General's Office. So if you go to our website, www.norfolkdeeds.org, you can go and look up this information. And, we have links to Quincy Community Action Program, to NeighborWorks Housing Solutions, and to some of the resources available through the Attorney General's Office. And my advice would be to go seek out that counseling. These are nonprofit groups, and they have a track record of helping everyone across the county in all 28 communities. You can reach out to them.
Getting back to some of the statistics, are we combining residential and commercial?
Yes, all those statistics were just a deed is a deed, whether it's commercial or residential or for mortgages, and that's what skews the prices. Actually, the average sale price went up 10% for the 6-month period of 2024 versus the 6-month period of 2025, and it's over $1.2 million was the average sale price. And again, that's because it involves commercial. We mix the two together. So again, it shows there's, prices are going up. There's some talk that maybe that's not quite the case, that people are talking about as June came, that houses were staying on a little bit longer. That maybe the demand wasn't quite as great as it was before. We had multiple offers and people saying, no inspections and waiving all kinds of contingencies.
Going above asking price.
Yes. So, I think there's still demand and there's limited supply. But anecdotally, talking to some of the brokers, they're saying that properties seem to be staying on a little longer.
I like how we're both holding on to our glasses as we're doing this show. Never know exactly when I need to put them on. But have interest rates changed all that much? They haven't.
No, they haven't. And my observation is there was a time when the interest rates were 2.5% or 3%, and they're not. And certainly that is a burden, not only, especially for first-time home buyers trying to get in the market, but for everybody, because, there's a big difference if you're borrowing $500,000 on 3% versus $500,000 on 7%. But, you can see the mortgages. The mortgage numbers are up. So even though the interest rates aren't as competitive as they were, or when I say competitive, as low as they were, not that many years ago, people are still, for many reasons, jumping into the market. And again, when sales go up, most people have to borrow money to either purchase a new house, or if they are selling an old house and moving into another property, whether it's upgrading or downsizing, most people still need to borrow a little money to make it happen.
Absolutely. And just a projection into the third quarter?
We'll see. I think these positive trends, I think they're going to continue again. But the local economy is always tied into going with the national economy. You got to be hesitant because of things like tariffs and unintended consequences of what happens.
The beginning of the day, you might get a certain take on the tariffs. At the end of the day, it may be different. I mean, it changes like the wind.
And it has economic implications. It has not only economic implications in a global sense, but just the day to day. On a house, lumber may come from Canada, and we don't know where a lot of the products come from, or the parts of the products come from. So I'd like to think that I think Norfolk County is a desirable place, so I think the demand will be there. I also think, the weather, notwithstanding today, it's a flood-like conditions out there getting here to film it.
For all of us.
But usually the weather is good, and although people want to go on vacation, that plays a factor in what's going to happen as far as buying and selling a house. But it's certainly you can still look for a house in the hot, muggy weather as opposed to a cold winter day in January.
True. And what's the latest with what the feds might do in the third quarter as far as adjusting the rate?
That's anyone's guess. I know. I mean, I think the country's been well served by the Federal Reserve. There's politics and everything, but they've been traditionally kind of supposed to be independent of politics, and now there's calls to for the chairman to step down, and so there could be all kinds of ramifications. I mean, it appears that the Fed just wants to make sure inflation doesn't get out in front of people, and to keep the economy kind of moving in the right direction. Again, the president has other ideas, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Fed. Because on one hand, the Fed would stay the course and make the decisions they do because they're sort of quasi-independent, but there seems to be an inordinate amount of jawboning or persuasion being done by the executive branch on what needs to get done, and again, that raises some risk because traditionally, they set up the Federal Reserve to be quasi-independent so that economic decisions wouldn't be based on one Democratic Party, Republican Party, whatever politics are going on.
The other thing too, and I heard this news the other day, that not since the early 2000s have folks, I'm on the employment line right now, which of course affects buyers able to purchase homes. Not since the early 2000s has there been a rise in second jobs held by one person. So one person will have two jobs.
Right, and now I heard another statistic that said, real wages are going up. But I also think, back to what we talked about, when you say, why would someone have two jobs? I mean, it's expensive out there. I look at first-time home buyers, young people coming into the registry or purchasing, and we talked about that earlier in the show, the burdens. But you couple that with it used to be, back in the day, as they say, maybe one person, you could get by with just one person working. Now, both, if you have two spouses, both spouses are working. And if they have a child, daycare is tremendously expensive. So I could see why people are grabbing a second job just to keep their head above water. It's not to excel. It's to, hey, we got bills we got to pay, and we got to hustle here.
Absolutely. And I know Norfolk County certainly is a place that folks do want to live in, but the whole Northeast is actually an expensive place to live.
We just talked about two components, probably big components: the cost of housing, the cost of daycare. Never mind healthcare implications, and yes, so wages may look good up here in the Northeast, but you're also there's cost to it too.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Homestead Act, something that we always bring up because it is important for folks to sign up if they haven't signed up for this.
And I always cite, we talk about the homestead as far as the law. It's a law, I think, I always, my training is in practice years ago was as an attorney, and attorneys have different opinions, but I always say 9.9 out of 10 attorneys would tell people, get a homestead recorded. It's in the statute, it's been around a long time, and it gives consumers a protection. It sort of puts a picket fence around your house where you, in certain matters, they can't liquidate or sell your house to satisfy, say, a credit card debt. If you don't pay your mortgage, as we talked about with the foreclosures, and if you don't pay your taxes to your local municipality, the homestead isn't going to help you out. But to show in those 6 month statistics, in 2025, over 6 months, 5,132 homesteads were recorded, up 9%. So people hopefully are listening to either these shows or doing research where it's a relatively easy process. You get the book and page information if your property is recorded on the recorded land side, or your certificate of title if it's recorded on the land court side. If you and your spouse own the property, you both have to sign it in front of a notary. It has to be notarized, and it gets recorded at the registry for $35 filing fee, which compared to the other filing fees, which is set by the state legislature, that's relatively low. And there are important other protections with the homestead. And one of the big reasons why you should do it is just in August of 2024, the protection went up to $1 million. So if your state legislators are looking at the Homestead Act and increasing the protections, they're doing it for a reason. They're doing it because it is a good consumer protection. And if you have a homestead, it protects a check. If you get a check because your house burnt down for a limited period of time, 2 years, those proceeds are protected while you rebuild your house. Or if you have a homestead, the proceeds from the sale of your house, again, as long as it's your principal residence, are protected. So there's a lot of other hidden protections or less known protections from the Homestead Act, and people should go out and get it recorded. And if you need to read up on it, you can go to our website at www.norfolkdeeds.org, where we have information on the homestead or other, I call them consumer services. We have a consumer notification service you might want to sign up for. We try to explain what a discharge is. When you have your mortgage paid off, you may want to make sure the bank, or if the bank sends the discharge to you directly, that you get it to the registry to make sure it's recorded. So there's a lot of good consumer information on that website.
And just hanging on to the Homestead Act for just one more minute, the act is automatic. In other words, it's something that you don't have to do. However, if you want to increase coverage, you do need to do that on your own, correct?
Yes. And again, thank your local legislators. For the longest time, you had to affirmatively record a written document to get the benefits of the homestead. Some years ago, they made it automatic, but it was only $125,000 worth of protection, and it gets, a portion depending on how many people own the property. So it used to be $500,000. Now it's gone up to $1 million. For a $35 fee. Again, it's probably worth considering doing it. So yes, if you've done nothing, you've got some protection, very limited protection, and again, the legislators were very perceptive to put that in. But and if you do have a homestead and you're saying, "Oh, do I have to record another one?" Because when it wasn't $1 million when you recorded it, no. If you have a valid mortgage, not a mortgage, valid discharge, valid homestead. God, we got so many legal terms going. It's rattling through the.
It's about to correct you.
No. If you have a valid homestead, you don't have to record another one to get the benefit of the increases that the legislators just put into place back in August of 2024.
What happens when you refinance?
Again, thank you, local legislators. I'm one of 21 registers. We have a registers association. We lobbied the legislators, and they did change language some time ago, which said it used to be if a mortgage got recorded when you refinanced, it killed your homestead. Now there's a law that says if your homestead is valid and there's language in there when you refinance that killed your homestead, it doesn't kill your homestead. Again, that legislation went into effect March 16, 2011. So if you put a homestead on after March 16, 2011, even if you've refinanced, you definitely have a valid homestead.
And if someone was questioning whether they, A, have a homestead, or I suppose they probably do at this point, or have the added protection, they can check how?
There's two ways to check. First of all, one of the things I'm proud about, we're a government entity, but we still try to do it the old-fashioned way. We still try to have we have a customer service center, 1-781-461-6101, where you can call. And you have a question. We have people that are there that will hopefully take your call and hopefully help you with your question. Or if you're good on the computer, go to www.norfolkdeeds.org and look up. You can run your name and see if there's a homestead. Or if you have a question about whether your mortgage is, we all know, I refinanced, I paid that mortgage off. But if you have a question about whether the discharge that tells the world that mortgage has been paid off, you can always call our customer service center. As I said, I gave you the number at 781-461-6101. And they can help you out, or you can go online.
Talk about signing up for the Consumer Notification Service, because the benefits are many.
Yes, and the Consumer Notification Service, we put this in place, back in 2015. We did this not knowing that cybersecurity would in warp speed become an issue, or that cybersecurity crimes would take off, or the depth of the scams that people would be starting to scam and do take deed scams to another level, where they're trying to take people's property rights away. So the Consumer Notification Service that we started in 2015, if you go to our website, under the banner services, if you click on the box services, it will come up. It's Consumer Notification Service. What is it? We, at the registry, send out notices anytime a document in your name gets touched. So when I've signed up myself, and I get a notice anytime a William O'Donnell document gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And I always tell the story. Sometimes it's Bill O'Donnell from Quincy. I'm Bill O'Donnell from Norwood. Sometimes it's William James O'Donnell, but I'm William Patrick O'Donnell. I don't mind getting that email. I can go on the computer and look at it, or I can see it's William James O'Donnell. It has nothing to do with me. Or it's from Stoughton or Quincy or whoever. It has nothing to do with me. I'm from Norwood. But if it's a close call, I just look it up just to make sure that, wait a minute, and it could happen. I could get a notice, I could look it up, and my wife is on the deed as well. Hey, I didn't sign that mortgage. I didn't sign that equity agreement or that equity mortgage. I didn't sign that deed. Now, the Consumer Notification Service, I always tell people, does not prevent the fraud that just took place.
It's an alert.
And it gets you on it right away. And we have links on our website to the government authorities that you should, the law enforcement authorities you should notify. And you're probably going to have to I always say, you probably have to seek counsel yourself to try to really make sure, that your property's protected. I always tell people, again, thank you, local legislators. There's a law in Massachusetts that says a fraudulent deed does not convey good title. So they're not going to take your house, but you're going to have some issues and you got to fight for it. Just like I always draw a parallel to credit card. Sometimes your credit cards get compromised, and anyone that's been through it knows it's somewhat, there's some legwork and work you got to do to protect yourself. But the Consumer Notification Service, I think, is well worth doing. We're even so sensitive. I should put this out there. We're doing some back indexing projects, and when we touch a document, a notice goes out. So of late, and it's funny. I was at the Real Estate Bar Association, and they have different conferences. And someone stood up and said, "You know what's going on in Norfolk County? I'm getting notices and multiple notices because they're doing an index project." And I thought they were going to complain about it. And he goes, "I am so glad. The more notices, the better." But I just want to put that kind of consumer alert out there that we are doing an indexing project. And people have been calling up saying, hey, I'm getting this notice. And actually, some of the people are saying, I forgot I even signed up for the Consumer Notification Service, because, you know, and that's good news for them. But it's so sensitive, our system, that even if the document gets touched with an indexing project, the person gets notified. And as I said, I could see where people say, oh, I don't want to be bothered. It was good to get the feedback like, hey, listen, I'd rather err on the side of multiple notices in order that my property can be protected.
Absolutely. The more information you have, the better off.
Right.
That an individual has, the better they are.
Right.
Let's talk about folks can also sign up for the newsletter.
Yes, you know, go to our website. On our newsletter, we try to talk about different things that we've talked about. You know, the homestead. Sometimes we talk about how do you record a document. Sometimes we talk about the difference between probate and what goes on in probate if you inherited the property under the will. So we try to keep it information-based. We also try to keep it relevant. You know, there are always things going on around the registry that, you know, people want to be kept informed of. So, you know, feel free to sign up for the newsletter. We get good feedback on it that, you know, and we do historical pieces too. We did an article about the 4th of July that we got good reviews on, you know, because we have great history in Norfolk County.
And we have turned that into a video as well.
Yes.
Plays around this time of year.
Yes, and again, much thanks to you and Quincy Access Television. We have a lot of historical videos, but we have one that kind of talks about, you know, the founding of Norfolk County. John Hancock, who was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, 4 presidents born here. And we've also done, again, with your creativity, some projects where, you know, we did a historical book. And if you want the historical books, go to our website because we have them. You can download them. We did the 225th anniversary of Norfolk County that started in 1793, 225th anniversary of the registry. We have deeds with, you know, historical people, some historical, some current, people of notable records. And we did one in 2019 when the registry building was renovated and rededicated. We were very proud in 2023 to do one on the veterans, and they're out there. And we have a few other projects we're looking at. We're doing, you know, notable women's book, and then we have the 250th anniversary coming up. So we're already reaching out to our local historical societies and commissions about any names or places of historical note during that era, the 250th. So maybe we'll have some more projects. Those short tapes that you've done are wonderful.
We just were informed as we were walking thank you, by the way, as we were walking into the studio, Brian Cox, who is on crew for this show, mentioned that the piece that we did at Norwood Town Hall, the Carillon, has received to date 22,000 views.
And I said, just July 4th is the old Parish Preservation Cemetery, you know, when Norwood was South Norwood, and it became a town in 1872. So they have people that were buried there. So we you know, there's a group that fixes it up. You know, the stones were re-glued together and digging is done to straighten it out. But they had a nice ceremony, you know, in part the Frederick Douglass speech got read, but then the bells started ringing because the town hall's nearby. So yes, that was great, and you've done other great places. You know, the first public library in the United States was in Franklin when Ben Franklin donated a bunch of books, and you've done that. And yeah, so a lot of great little snippets and great history in Norfolk County, and it all starts with the records. The records are here, and there's stories behind those records.
On that note, that's a great way to end the program. Thank you, Bill. And I should mention these pieces are collaborations between Quincy Access Television and the Registry of Deeds.
Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you for watching, and please remember to support your local cable access station. Take care.